here we are. It is December 10th, Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. We are coming up on the new year, everyone. It's very exciting stuff coming up on the new year. Yeah, we're going to keep this kind of brief in the beginning. I always say we're going to keep it brief, but then it ends up being like a 20-minute long intro or something. But I'm going to try because I have a couple of things I want to get to here. So, dates. Carbon Leaf dates coming up, or dates that I have going on. So I fly down to Richmond on the 12th for 4 shows at Ram's Head on stage in Annapolis, Maryland. Friday night, there's 2 on Saturday, and then a matinee on the 15th, and then I go home, and then I'm home for a day, and then I fly back down. I probably should have just stayed the whole time, but just even getting that one day back home to go see my niece's, she has an orchestral recital on that Tuesday, so I'm not gonna miss that. But after that, only a couple more. Alexandria, Virginia, at the Birchmere, 2 nights, Thursday night, Friday night. Dan Mills is going to be opening Friday night, and he is also going to be opening at the National in Richmond, Virginia. So that is the last show of the year. Isn't that crazy? I feel like it was just, I think like our first show of the year was in, I don't know, Savannah or somewhere, but like I remember that show very vividly, and that was the first show of the year, and now we're at like the end, and then it's like I don't know, a few days after that until Christmas. I get home on Sunday, and then probably do all my shopping on Monday and Tuesday, and then I don't know, I'm gonna do some online stuff, but and then I am actually going to be playing with a band called The Gravel Project, who is based out of the Boston area, on the 26th, the day after Christmas, up in Boston. So that is at Menotomy. It's Menotomy Grill and Tavern. So it's like restaurant, kind of tavern-y thing, and they have original music. They're called The Gravel Project, and play some covers. It's like funky stuff. A lot of really fun music. Andrew, it's 2 brothers. It's Andrew and Jordan. So Andrew is like kind of the band leader, guitarist, plays some killing guitar, and also his brother Jordan plays the B3 organ, kind of like an organ trio thing, and sometimes they have a bass player sit in, or another guitarist sit in, or whatever. But I'll be doing that the day after Christmas. So if you're around that area, around then come out. And then I've been doing these brunch gigs, these solo brunch gigs at Devlin's restaurant in Boston. So I'll be doing that on the 29th. And then the next year, I don't really know what's happening. I got to figure that out. Carbon Leaf is going to be pretty busy in the early part of the year. Another big one is I will be playing drums with Dan Mills. Oh, just almost broke something. I'll be playing drums with Dan Mills for the Monty R.I. reunion show in Rhode Island. If you don't know who that is, it's because you didn't grow up in Rhode Island. But they were a band back in the day. I think they kind of called it quits. They're all best friends, but they kind of went their separate ways 10 years ago. Steve Aiello plays bass for 30 Seconds to Mars. He's their lead singer. You've known those guys forever, and they're doing a reunion show, and Gavin Castleton, Dan Mills with the band, and Monty are going to be playing at the Strand, formerly Lupo's. I don't know the name of it anymore. It's confusing, but doing that on the 4th, trying to figure out what's going on. I'll probably do another brunch thing on the 5th, and then and that's it. And then we do the road up to the Rockboat tour: Durham, Charlestown, Atlanta, Orlando, Tampa, Boca Raton, and then the Rockboat. And then I'll kind of leave it at that because there's a few things in February, but we don't have to mention that yet. On sale now, right now, I think as of I don't know what time this is going to be when I release this, but the Sea Leaf event, the Carbon Leaf at the beach, Kitty Hawk, that is that is going to be really, 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 really fun. So go online. They're probably on sale at carbonleaf.com. So yeah, let's see. I'm trying to bring up the event. Carbon Leaf. Sorry, everyone. Just bear with me for a second. Yeah, it's definitely on sale right now because it's supposed to go on sale today. Come on, dude. Load, man. Let's go. There it is. All right. August 21st and 22nd in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. It's the Sea Leaf event. It's going to be down by the beach. We're going to play some music. There's other artists just also featuring Liz. I don't know why we have to say featuring Carbon Leaf, obviously. But anyway, featuring Liz Longley, Freddie and Francine, Emma Hearn, Marie Miller. So that'll be really fun. Tickets are on sale. Actually, here's a website for it. www.sealeaf.live. Sealeaf.live. So I didn't know you could do other things than .com and .org or .gov or whatever, but .live, that's a thing. Moving on. Still like a little sick. Sorry about my the sound of my voice and nose and all that stuff. But Patreon. It's patreon.com/afterthegig. Right now, there's a special offer if you sign up for any of the tiers. That's even the lowest one, which I just added, which is a $2 tier. It's a special offer. You get a sticker. You get an After the Gig sticker. And if you are already signed up, if you're one of the 17 people that are already signed up on Patreon, the 17 best people in the entire world, if you update your shipping information, I will send you something. And I will send you the sticker and, maybe a little something else, maybe a little something extra. But if you sign up for that right now, up until I believe the 17th, then you get that at any tier level. And it's a great way for you to help me out and to support the podcast and do all that good stuff. It's been really, really great. Other than that, and then if I reach a certain point per month, then I will release an original song and a video of me playing said original song. And the proceeds for I know Carbon Leaf has these bracelets. I don't know if here they are. I think it was yesterday that it had the 25 off custom bracelet thing, but it's let's see, it's through Wear Your Music, and you can find it on, I believe, carbonleaf.com or the Carbon Leaf Facebook page. But they take our guitar strings and stuff, and they're guitar strings that have been played for shows, and you pay, and they make a bracelet out of them, and the proceeds will go to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is not all the proceeds. I think I don't know if it's all profits or so. I don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure, but I know either a portion or all of it or something. I don't want to be misleading. I'm sure it will tell you right on the site or right when you make your order or whatever. But money from those purchases will go towards the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which makes me very, very happy. As you can probably tell from last episode, I have Crohn's disease. So a lot of people have been affected by that. I've gotten some nice emails of people telling me about their experience with it after last week's episode. And yeah, go check it out. And I mean, it's a really cool thing. I actually might get one myself because they're real guitar strings, and they make it so it doesn't like poke you. They make it look really nice, and they clean them up. And you can do pendants if you're not a bracelet person. And if they have a couple things. So go on there and check it out, and you'll be supporting a good cause. What else? Yeah, that's it. So on this episode today, I am going to mess up his name bad. It's unbelievable drummer. Vlade, I know I got the first name right, but I'm gonna do the whole thing.
Vlade Guigni.
But he's on the show. It was so nice to have this conversation with him, and we did not know each other before this. He went to Berkeley. He came from the Dominican Republic. Got a scholarship, and I mean, this guy, if you go on his social media, on his, if you're into music and into like kind of, just drummer videos and drummer stuff and watching great drummers play, you are going to want to follow this dude because he just has such a smooth way of playing. He's like on his way. He's like a master of the instrument. He's an educator, but he just has a really good vibe and he just knows how to do it. And I'm trying to get on Instagram right now to see his following here. We talk a little bit about social media. Oh, there he is. So 21,600 people, 21.6K. So that's a lot. And he posts all kinds of videos of him just thrashing on the drums. And yeah, we get into a little bit about Berkeley and what it means to go to Berkeley, his experience in when he was studying with Terry Carrington and how she helped him, kind of his relationship with her propelled him forward and to be able to open some more doors for him. And we talk about your relationships and networking and being able to open doors and do things like that, and how important that is while you're being a musician, how even, sometimes it's more important than playing or practicing. But you need to be able to do both things at the same time. So it was very interesting to hear him talk about that, and also to just like see how a dude that is that good ticks. But it's like the same. It's just, I don't know. He just works really, really hard at it. And, obviously he has a natural talent. And when he grew up, he had all this great music in the house, and it was just kind of a natural thing. And actually, the fact that he was successful and playing and working and making a living in the Dominican Republic, and then just said, hey, Berkeley is a dream, I'm going to do it, and just kind of uproot himself and do this whole thing. I mean, it's just, it's really inspiring to hear someone just kind of get up and go from something that's comfortable and open themselves up to something new and completely different, and be able to do well and succeed. And that just is a testament to how good he is and how hard he works. So I am done. I'm done talking here. So I'm going to let him do the rest. And please enjoy this episode with Vlade.
Oh, I graduated because I had two graduations. I graduated from undergrad in 17.
In 17?
Yeah, 17.
How
Is
old
that
are you?
right? Yes, I'm 35.
You're 35, okay.
Yeah, because I'm 34. I'm 35 next month.
Oh, okay.
A month from today, I mean January 4th. Yeah, January 4th. I'll be 35. I don't know why I said 35.
I do the same thing too. My birthday was in November, and I turned 32, and I was like, I'm 32. Like,
It's just that I went to college again. I went to college back home, then I went to college here, and I did undergrad and masters here.
Okay.
Then I graduated from masters in 2018.
Yeah. Where's home?
Home is the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
That's where I'm from.
Yeah. Right.
And it was kind of crazy because for me, I always say this: you like already trying to make a living or something. Back home, playing, doing some different stuff, and then this Berkeley opportunity shows up, and I had to really. I was a little bit comfortable back home. I really did not want to move for certain financial reasons. Like, hey, you know, I'm doing fine here, blah, blah, blah.
It's a risk.
Yeah, it's a risk. But Berkeley has been on, like, in the back of my mind since I was like 18.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the time I was 27 when the opportunity came around, like an audition. And I was like, no.
Did the audition just like randomly come up?
No, it's, what happens is that every 4 or 5 years since 2005, if I can recall. Yeah, there's this piano player, and I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name is Michel Camilo.
Yep.
And he, along with Berkeley, they started like the Michel Camilo Scholarship.
Interesting. Is that different from like the presidential one?
It's a presidential scholarship for one student. What happens is generally, and this is when I come in, so they give this scholarship with everything, you know, it's presidential, but at the same time, always Berkeley finds more talent in the contest, and then they give away a couple more scholarships. And you know, usually, and I've seen this because that's what happens at Berkeley, when it comes to have like a completely full ride in a presidential setting where you get everything paid.
Yeah.
Age is a factor because, you know, at least from the perspective I see it, they will be like, well, you know, we can give this whole presidential thing to this kid because, you know, they don't even have a job. They don't know, you know, what it is like out there, whatever.
Right.
Maybe these older guys, you know, maybe we can give them certain level of scholarship, and you know they will find a way.
Figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think you give like a 17, 18-year-old kid, let's say, a partial scholarship, and they're just gonna figure out of nowhere, you know.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have that experience of like just going around doing stuff.
Yeah.
I've been always a hustler. Like,
yeah.
I mean, find a way. So that's what happens.
Because if you're like a little bit older, I almost feel like if they give, on the other side of the coin, if they gave someone, you know, you're 35, someone like a full scholarship like that, they're less likely. It's like a better investment because they know that 35-year-old is going to work harder, not necessarily in every case, but is going to work harder than the 17-year-old that hasn't really necessarily figured life out yet.
Yeah.
Or everyone's still figuring it out, but hasn't figured out how to, you know, work hard, hustle, do the whole thing. But I don't know.
You know, and I actually had this conversation later on because it was not easy. I mean, I got a partial scholarship in that contest, and I was able to move around, get some extra money from the government in my country, just to be able to kind of get here and then feel if I was gonna stay or not. You know, it was a little challenging on the first year, financially speaking, and I used to. You know, I remember that I would go to the scholarships office and say like, "Yo, I need more," because, you know. And they said, "Well, we're sorry, we gave you this, blah, blah, blah."
Tapped out.
Yeah. And then I remember having a conversation with one of the guys there. I was like, "But I've been here and I see how you guys give all this money to these kids, and then sometimes most of them they waste it.
Yeah, they waste it.
And they don't even know what they want. But I come here.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah, I come here with a specific plan, blah blah.
Yeah.
Rejected first time.
Jeez.
But I kept moving around. So I what happened is like I was able to do my first semester, then I couldn't do the second right away because of the money, and then I'm in a student visa international. I have all these risks, all these limitations. So in order for me to be able to stay legally within the status, I had to transfer to another school. And what I did is I transferred to like one of those community colleges to get a couple of those liberal art
like
credits,
or something like that.
So I can transfer them to Berkeley. while I figure out,
which is even better. It's
cheaper.
It's way cheaper, and it doesn't matter where you're getting those credits really.
Yeah.
Man, that's interesting because that's such a bummer because when I was there, it was like, you know, I was a 20-year-old kid. I just transferred 2 years out of another college in Rhode Island, moved up here, and then I didn't have it figured out. I was one of those kids that was like playing, you know, had talent and stuff, but like didn't really have my work ethic together at that point. So I wouldn't. It would have been crazy for them to give me any kind of like full scholarship or full ride, but I had seen people that got the presidential scholarship that were just like fucking around and like
tell me about
anything.
Yeah,
and some of them weren't even really that good. And I'm just like, I don't understand how this happened. And, you know, it's kind of a weird system.
But you know, the thing also, and is I'm glad you mentioned this, is, you know, I come from a country where a lot of things are still in development. So, like, thanks to the internet now and all the facility, people have a lot of access to the information, you know, from anywhere in the world. But before the YouTube thing, before you being able to download videos or whatever, you know, people had books and they had to, you know, take a photocopy from the book that such and such had. But the thing is, like, when you see an opportunity like this, like for me, for example, you know, not having those resources down there and then being able to do a little research before I came, you know, I was like, okay, you know, Berkeley, amazing, all these great teachers, musicians, network, but what am I going to do there? So I started trying to connect the dots of like, what am I doing here in the Dominican Republic? What's my passion? So I always been someone interested in the studio, the sounds, because everything started for me being like a little bit of a gear gig, I would say, like trying to get sounds of these heads, how to tune these cymbals, these drums. Okay, now let's put some mics on it. Let's see. You know, so that thing started for me, and then I kind of built myself a little home studio, and then I paid someone to do a little bit of acoustic thing, and I ended up having like a, you know, kind of a semi-professional studio at home where I will work remotely for some artists in my country. And then I was like, when I see the Berkeley opportunity, it's like,
was that your main gig back at home?
No, that was one of
many.
them. I pretty much did the same thing, playing live, teaching and doing studio work. The studio work, I never was able to like, let's say, reach the point where I was working all the time on it, but it was starting to pick up when the Berkeley situation came in. And that's why I was like, man, should I just leave all this behind? But I remember being encouraged by friends, like, you always talk about Berkeley, pursue your dream, go out there and make it the best you can do it. Just leave, just do it.
Probably would have been a regret if you didn't do it.
Oh, man, yeah. And then I'm looking at all these Berkeley things. Oh, then I see MP&E, music production and engineering, you know, and I also see at the beginning, I wanted to do jazz composition as well because, you know, I'm so freak with jazz fusion and stuff. Then when I came here, my jazz composition thing changed a little bit. I didn't want to do it because it was not what I expected. But MP&E definitely was something I was gonna do.
You wanted to do that?
Yeah,
for sure.
I wanted. That's the thing. I came here. Okay, you know, I was 28 when I got here. I was okay. I'm not gonna be my whole life in school, so let me figure out a plan where I'm gonna get all of this done, you know. And then going back to that money thing, when the next year came by, I was able to come back to school. Then I saw myself in the same situation in the second semester of that year, and then I went back to them again and said, listen, I'm really trying. Look, I'm involved in this because when I got to Berkeley, I start playing with everybody, you know, and I started trying to be connected. You
just want to be the guy.
Yeah, and with the people with influence, teachers with influence, you know, staff with influence, people that will say like, man, you got to check this guy out. You know, stuff like that. It was like sometimes friends ask me like, how did you do it, man? How do you? And sometimes for me it's kind of hard to explain, because the only way I can say it is like as a trying to survive and to be in that or having that instinct of on like
fight or flight.
You got to figure out. You can't just stay there, because from where I come and the way my family raised me and all of that, we had to earn everything. We had to really work hard for everything. So for me, it was like, okay, got to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Next,
Would
next
you say?
thing.
Would you say that like, I remember when I was younger, I used to think like, how did this person get to where they are? Like, how did you do it? How did you do it? Like, what, and some of it was like, oh, what gear are you using? And then the further and further you go and the more things you do, the more you realize you just have to like pinpoint, find a whatever your problem is, find a solution and like get in there and do it.
Oh yeah.
A lot of it is just doing things.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting that you bring this point, because even these days, we all somehow post stuff what we do playing, and the new generation, like the generation that was born with YouTube or the internet era, whatever, they all just come to you and say like, hey, how do you do that? How can I? How much time is gonna take me? Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, certainly we have an advantage today that the information, like I say, is a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
But you still have to do the work.
Yeah.
So there's not these shortcuts. Sure, I can tell you this. Sure, because of all these advantages, a lot of other things you can figure them out quicker. But there is something you can't skip. For example, I always say this. If we're drummers, you play, you can easily, if you practice X amount of hours every day effectively and do the right thing, the material, blah, 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 and you're consistent, you will get ability pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But there's no way to develop a sound without playing with people, without going to venues, without understanding the difference between playing a practice room versus playing a bar versus playing in a church versus playing in a stadium.
Yep.
All these venues will require you to play differently, for example.
Yeah.
And this thing, I kind of learned it on the way as I was playing, but I was not necessarily conscious about all of that. It was just the experience.
Yeah.
And nowadays, people ask me like, man, how do you? And I'm like,
you just got to go out there and do it, man.
I've been playing like 20 years, man. What can I say? And
it's like I can't tell you one thing that is going to give you 20 years of experience and stuff,
I think it was, let me see, it was probably this year or last year. I don't remember. But I went to this concert. And this brings me back to that same part. So while I was doing my master's, the master was in the Global Jazz Institute. All these crazy teachers: Sterling, Carrington, John Peritucci, Danilo Perez.
Was just going to get your master's, just kind of the next step, like, because not every musician goes and gets their master's.
Actually, no.
Or is it more of like just continue the networking thing and to get to the higher levels of musicianship?
The master's was really kind of a surprise. I'll explain why. So far, I think Berklee has been doing it for 5 years now. The Masters in Boston.
I remember it was pretty new when I was there.
So I'm part of the third generation of the Masters in Boston in the Global. So I was doing undergrad, or I was applying for undergrad in Global. Yeah, I was applying for undergrad. Because they had like a concentration undergrad in the Global Jazz Institute. So I remember the first time I didn't even get an audition. I sent my music and nothing.
Really?
Yeah. It's fine. That's things they work around like that, because sometimes there's a lot of applicants. Sometimes they're more focused on certain people, blah blah. But then
I feel like a lot of times it's a test too. It's like, all right, let's see what curveball we can throw this person and see if they keep coming back.
Yeah. So what happened is, like, later, I started studying with Terry Lynn Carrington, and she was like, "So how come you're not in Global?" She saw me playing and we talked. Well, I applied once, but they didn't even. She said, "Apply again. I'll give you a recommendation." So she teaches there, and I think
that's a big deal.
It's a big deal, and her voice is strong because she's a strong player. So then I get an audition and I get in, and when I got in Global, so at the same time, the first master started. So I was able to see, and then in the back of my mind I was, okay, well, I'm here in the undergrad, so I should apply for these masters, because the thing of the masters is this: it's a year masters,
it's not
it's a full ride if you get in, because it's only 20 people from all over the world they pick.
Wow.
Only 20, and so it's highly competitive, you know. So I try to learn as much as I could about the philosophy of the institute, and kind of earn a place, earn a spot, and I was able to get in, and I remember for the masters, she even Terry Lynn gave me a bigger recommendation. She was like, "Yeah, this guy is into it, blah blah blah," and I'm eternally grateful to that. So what I was saying is, then I get into this masters, and it's a really unconventional way of teaching, because it's not very academical anymore. What I like about Global is that these guys come from playing the gigs, and the way they teach you, the way we play, it's like it's probably the closest experience to do it out there, because they have like really unorthodox ways of teaching. Like, they won't talk to you about scales or chops or blah blah. It's just reactions, listening,
instincts,
interactions. It was a great year. So I mentioned the masters because like I said earlier, I go to this concert where Terry and John Patitucci, they're playing with this other guy who's a piano player. He's not that well known, but he made an album, and they all recorded in that album, and then he kind of played this concert in Scholars as an album release. I wanted to go and check it out just because Terry and John were playing. The guy, he was cool, but you can tell when you see, even that he was the main guy, everybody was just paying attention to what was going on between Terry and John. It was they were like so locked in, and it sounded great. So at the end of the concert, I go and talk to them, like, they're my teachers, and I'm like looking at what they do, and I asked both of them the same question. I mean, they're together, and I was like, Terry, how come I come and see this show, and I see a lot of shows, I see a lot of people playing, I'm always feeding myself, but what I felt with you guys, that sound, and I asked her, like, what's the difference between what you guys are doing versus what, the more, let's say, current and modern guys that are at the top right now in the jazz scene.
Scene?
They're great, but they don't sound like that.
Yeah.
What's up with that? And she answered very simply. She said, they just haven't done it enough. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
You need to understand that, you can't skip playing 6 nights a week with the best musicians of the world. Yeah. Because, it has changed a lot these days, but that was the school back then. Like, people people just get gigs and go to sessions and don't get me wrong, we have the technology today, but at the same time, I feel like we are trying to replace that with technology, and I think that's unreplaceable because what's happening on the internet is a perception, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm using my socials crazy, like promoting my playing as much as I can, but it's very easy to fall in certain trap and try to use or try to everything you play or everything you do, look at it as okay, this is what I'm playing, so I'm just gonna post it and that's it. Like now, I met students that they would say like, man, I just want to get my stuff together, my playing, so I can post my covers and then get my endorsements and then I'm cool. And I'm like,
say what?
What? But everything kind of works.
So really, there's no replacement for the hard work.
There's no replacement.
And being good.
But check this out. Like it's everything kind of comes like again like first full circle. Yeah. Because we are so focused now on what's happening in technology that we are starting to miss again the full experience.
Because it's really easy to get distracted by either going and seeing a show where there's a lot of synthesized parts. There's lots of tracks being played behind people. There's a lot of videos out there that are just highly produced and highly edited. And it's just, when you go on and you're learning how to play an instrument or learning how to do anything really, having the foundation, learning the vocabulary, knowing the history, as well as going out there and being in the scene and meeting the people. Like, the reason why you got into the global is not only because you're a great player, is because you knew Terry Lynn Carrington. Terry Lynn Carrington is like, they're going to take her word for it. It's this dude has got it. He deserves to be here.
Yeah, and for example, like I remember one day being on a private lesson because you get private lessons with all the guest artists. So imagine me having my first private lesson with John Patitucci. And okay, great, he's a great player, but to me it was even bigger than that. I'll explain why. So my all-time favorite band when I was growing up was the Chick Corea Electric Band.
Oh yeah.
So he's playing bass there. Yeah. And then I'm sitting with him in the same room. And the first thing I told him, like, listen, I don't want to sound like a fanboy, but you're one of my heroes.
It's amazing.
He's
like, I don't hear this enough. Yeah. Keep talking.
And then he was like, of course, I ask a lot of things to these guys. I remember asking him, like, John, so how do you a lot of people ask you, like, how do you make it? But honestly, like, talk to me about your career. And he told me something that sticks to me till this day. And I know that coming back to technology, the information is it's so available right now to everybody, and we can see everything from the computer that we don't necessarily have to go to malls in New York or any other club, right? Which is, I don't know if it's an advantage in that sense, but I remember him saying, I made a career, but my drive and my passion was, I like the bass, I love the bass, and I wanted to play with my heroes. I wasn't thinking about money, finances, or I was so focused on that I just got I practiced my butt off as much as I could, and then I started playing and connecting and with people,
and then the money comes out.
Yeah, and then because sometimes we can't even be more worried about, okay, we have to do the networking, let's say, and to hustle for the money, blah blah. But do you have your shit together? Can you play? can you get into a situation?
Can you walk into a room and know that you're the baddest guy in there? You know?
Man, like it was a couple of days ago. I got a call from a friend. Last minute call. He called me on a night and he said like, man, I'm desperately looking for a sub in this musical situation, and it's musical theater.
Okay.
So you have to read a lot.
Yep.
And I didn't have time to rehearse or anything. I was just looking at the chart and listening to the music, blah blah, and getting the work done. And
But you had some time to listen and have the charts. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. For example, let's say that's a skill set that it's up for debate when students ask you like, oh, do you think that as a drummer I should play such and such style, or should I be able to read? Should I be able to blah blah blah? And then I tell them, so okay, what's your goal? What are you trying to do?
Right.
So it's your dream to play in the biggest rock band, let's say, and just do that? Well, you need at least this thing.
Right.
Do you want to do session work? Well, you need to know these things.
Right.
Do you want to do last minute situations? Oh, well, you have to read.
Yeah. You have to read,
all these kind of things. It's up to you. I generally consider that these days, because of so much variety in the industry and us being heard with the art we create and not being paid necessarily in a fair way, we have to diversify the skills. You gotta be able to play, you gotta be able to teach, you gotta be able to arrange, to produce, or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, no matter what you select or want to do, you gotta do your research, you gotta do your homework. Like I've been teaching drums since I can remember back home, but I like to explain things, I like to break down stuff, I like to inspire other guys, and I also, when I first started playing drums, I had someone who cared about me, and he said like, hey man, I'm gonna give you like the basics. I just want you to do the same with some other people in the future.
That's cool.
So for me, teaching, it's more than a paycheck. It's more of a passion thing. Sure, sometimes
passing the torch, inspiring. Yeah.
Sometimes I get frustrated with students, not because of lack of talent, but because of negligence sometimes, and watching people being able to pay, for example, for lessons when I was not able to pay for lessons, and
that's what. Okay.
I think about this.
But does that tie into, like, say if the kid or whoever it is isn't practicing?
Well, not necessarily. It can be a lot of different things, because what I learned down the road is like, well, you have to assess everybody's goals. Like, not everybody wants to be the next Dave Weckl, so you need to understand that not everybody, you gotta find what's their interest, why they want to play music, and then kind of assess that. What frustrates me sometimes is, after going through this whole process of assessing your goals and you and I agreeing on something and start working on it, and knowing that parents make sacrifices for their kids to go and study something, then they just waste it sometimes. Yeah. And I take it back to myself, like when I was a kid, I wasn't able to afford that.
Right.
But I took a pair of sticks and I was like, let me do it.
Were your parents musicians, or your family, anyone?
No, but the thing, and this is interesting, and that's why my dad is among my heroes as musicians. Why I say this? Because he exposed me to a lot of music since I was a kid. Okay. He's not a musician, but he is the guy who will be in every single jazz concert in
He's
my
a music
country.
lover, loves it.
And his discography is just killer.
Yeah.
When I was like 3 years old, 4 years old, most of the kids in my neighborhood, they wanted to listen to this thing. And I asked my dad for his records, like, no, I just want to listen to, I remember the Dominican Republic Symphony Orchestra, and I wanted to listen to Juan Luis Guerra, who's one of the biggest artists of Latin American music in the world, and he's from my country. Since I was a little kid, I was influenced with a lot of music that later I started playing, but I didn't know names or anything. I knew probably the name of the singer, like Juan Luis Guerra, stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about musicians, But music always kind of played a big role on me, like growing up. There was a moment I was trying to watch MTV videos.
Oh yeah.
And try to sing.
The best.
Yeah. I tried to imitate the singers. For some reason, I try to be involved in music all the time. And trust me, when I was, let's say, a teenager, I was still not thinking that I was going to be a musician at all. I'm like everybody, going to high school and then thinking about some kind of tech career, blah, blah, until there was an era where I'm starting to listen to a lot of rock in Spanish, and then the common denominator in rock is either drums or guitar. So, I wanted to play guitar. I was like, I want to learn guitar, blah, blah. Then a friend connected me to another friend, and he started teaching me guitar when I was 15. And that's the same guy who later started teaching me drums. Because the funny thing is I'm playing guitar, but I have a pair of sticks, and I'm playing to records all the time on my mom's bed.
Yeah. So it's like this thing that it's just happening. Mm-hmm. It's happening unconsciously.
Yeah, exactly.
And then one day you're like, what the I'm a drummer.
Yeah, and I didn't even think, I'm playing guitar, and I wanted to, learn every Santana solo back then, and being,
That's so funny you say that, because I used to, when I was learning how to play guitar, I used to play like Black Magic Woman and trying to learn all the guitar. Yeah, I love that sound.
And the funny thing, and I've said this before, is, I during that time was when he came out with that Supernatural album. So
which that was, that was like one of the biggest. Smooth was like one of the biggest songs ever.
The second song, as far as I think, is the second best sell song,
like of all time or something. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I'm playing guitar, and I'm taking guitar lessons, and I'm learning, and that has served me a lot as a musician. But
it's also helping your coordination.
I'm playing drums naturally. Yeah. Just hitting things. Yeah. But the moment was we go and play this anniversary service in a church that I was going, and I was playing guitar, and my guitar teacher was playing the drums. He's mainly a drummer. And I've never seen him playing drums.
You've never seen it?
No, I just knew the legend, but I never see him. Okay. So I got my first chance to see him when he played, and I'm playing the guitar. I'm paying more attention to what he's doing to what I'm doing. And when I saw him playing, that was it. Yeah. Two things happened. I was like, okay,
I'm putting down the guitar.
I'm going there, and this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I remember saying that.
Yeah, well.
Like I can say it might sound a little like corny, I don't know, or whatever.
It's not corny at all. But it's really not.
It's like we connected, the drums and I was like, this is it. And I've been like looking for you.
And I found you.
Yeah, I found you, but without knowing, because you're always kind of searching for this thing. Some people are born with, or they develop this kind of mentality, or I'm gonna be this or that. But some people, like me, for example, they want to take risks and go for their passion no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I think someone like you can do that because you're willing to put in the work and the hustle.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, and you question yourself, and you don't just go forward, full steam ahead, it's bad times.
Well, if you watch, for example, I'm sure you do this too. I always do research about the history of my heroes, like how they made it to the industry and what's their story. And when I've been fortunate to meet some of them in person and ask a couple of questions, and it's funny when sometimes they're even 70 years old or more, and they say, yeah, man, I'm still figuring it out, and this is a journey.
Yeah.
When I learned the term journey and how that aligns with what I do, then I think instantly I became like so happy about everything, because I felt like it's not about doing something and arriving. It's about like getting yourself into this journey and just doing it for the rest of your life, and learning about yourself, learning about others, and just growing and searching. And I think when you do that, there's always that passion, setting up that fire inside of you, and you'll be all the time looking for more. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I like this. But you're like never satisfied, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. Not like frustrated. Like, hey man, see, I just saw that video. This guy, he can play that lick and I can't.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
No.
For the listeners, it's not about that. It's more about looking for to grow more on what you do. And as the years go by, the more you play, the more you get with people, the more you keep pursuing your dreams, you discover that music is, how do I put it? It's way beyond what we think when we first start. We when we first start, it's just, okay, how do I get this together?
Yeah.
And then when you have it together, and when you can play, then you realize that it's just about feelings, connections, communication, exactly.
Yeah.
And
when your body can do what your mind is telling it to do, and to communicate, like if someone plays something on the piano and you can speak back to them or whatever,
And that's why I say there are certain things you will not be able to skip.
Right.
Like I said, well, maybe you got a method to help me to figure out some things faster, but there are a lot of things that I will have to realize by myself with the experience.
Yeah.
And that's something you cannot skip. And that's where I'm trying to sort of immerse myself.
Yeah.
Like my searching these days, as I practice and as I develop more, it's not even about, man, how do I figure this thing out? I'm actually trying to, every time I sit now, when I'm not doing something like really structured, like, okay, I want to learn this material, I sit and play.
Yeah.
Just sometimes turn on the cameras and just play.
Yeah.
And some of that I just post it. Sometimes other drummers ask me like, man, where are you doing double strokes combinations with flams? And I go like, well, I don't know. Let me check.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was doing this thing. Okay, I'm able to kind of look at what I do and then explain. But hopefully when I'm playing, I'm not doing that.
Well, you look right, because you don't want to think about while you're doing it, because then it's you already failed.
Yeah.
Do you ever go back and watch your videos of yourself playing when someone's not asking you to, but and go back and be like, okay, I'm having a certain tendency here. Mm-hmm. Let's try to break this. Let's go and seek something else out.
Well, of course, one of the things I learned very early, when I started practicing, I used to tape myself with a tape recorder and listen back. I've always record myself to kind of learn how to shape my sound and learn how to translate my sound correctly. Like, okay, what I have in my head is the same thing I play and record. Mm-hmm. And
that's an interesting point, because a lot of times you'll sit down and play, and you'll hear it a certain way, and then you'll hear it back and be like, whoa, that's completely different than what I thought I was hearing.
Yeah. And having that control of you on your playing is important.
Yeah.
I feel, because the more control you have of the things you can do, then the less you have to worry about them. At the same time, you can just play. So yes,
it's like trying to change lanes without looking in your mirrors.
And I see a lot of that here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
funny.
I definitely listen to a lot of the things I do, and you know, these past days I've been like a little bit inspired, and you know, hearing other interviews and people talking about this social media thing, when we're having these highly produced and super edited videos where you can do whatever you want, or you can manipulate things, or sometimes you're recording something and you have to do 30 takes until you get that one you want to post.
Yeah.
And then I was like, sure, that's not necessarily bad, but at the same time, depending on how you do it, it can send the wrong message. And what I mean by this is like, okay, you were able to do that killing thing, but are you able to do it under pressure? Like with people right there next to you in one take? Because sure, you know, I'm in certain ways, I'm a perfectionist. I try to be as good as I can, but lately what I've been trying is to just let things flow and worry more about telling a story and playing something that hopefully can impact you emotionally, you know, as opposed to just
playing licks.
Yeah, playing a lot of licks and show you how fast I can do it.
Yeah.
But you know,
even like guitar players and stuff.
Yeah.
I like it when guitar players play more lyrically and less like just, you know, all right, you're playing this riff that you learned and you just do over and over again. And drums are the same way. Like, to kind of get into your social media stuff, I guess, there's a lot of Instagram drummers or YouTube drummers and that post a lot of stuff. The thing that I think makes you different is exactly what you're talking about, how like the flow and just how smooth it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's obviously very technical and very, like, you know, you can tell that you got your shit completely together.
Thank you.
But it's like, it's really smooth and very like has a lot of feel to it, which is very different from other players that I see on there where it's all about how they produce their sound, and some of it is like ultra compressed and ultra, you know, almost sounds quantized at some points. And I don't want to like accuse anyone of anything, but
and they think you can't hear it, but you can.
You can totally hear it.
I'm an engineer, so I can hear it.
Oh, dude. I mean, there's one dude in particular that he'll post videos of him doing stuff, and I'm pretty sure that he's all good. But then he'll post stuff of his of him actually playing drums, and it's so compressed and it just doesn't sound real. And I'm like, oh man, how do you not hear how this sounds? It just sounds so choked, like the life is choked out of it. But
yeah,
how did you get into like your social media following is ridiculous. Like,
well, you know,
when did that all start?
Well, again, see, and this is it's interesting you talk about the following, because I've noticed, and this is so twisted, what I'm going to say. I don't understand since when things got flipped. Now, whatever is trending is whatever is crap. Most of the time.
Are you talking about just music in general?
In general, like, what you know, let's say, let's talk about my followers. Might be, you know, it's a decent number, but you have to see the crap out there with
millions,
hundreds and thousands of followers, and I'm okay with that, because I learned this. So first of all, you know what you do, you don't need validation from anybody. That's the first thing,
right?
And if you're looking to do something cool, you might have a lot of a hard time when you're trying to do quality stuff, because not everybody gets quality.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood that through the years as well. And
I'm getting the vibe that you want to build it even higher. You want it higher.
Yeah, and it's cool that to have that, and the main purpose, hopefully, for me is one of them is to promote myself, promote my playing, promote what I do, connect with people, inspire other younger musicians that are coming up, but definitely not like my end game. Like, a lot of people want to base their career in social media. I don't really want to do that. Yeah. Hopefully, like I always say to other people, I'm really open to situations where I can play with big artists and do all kinds of musical situations. But my end goal really is make my own thing big, like my band, my music, my original stuff.
What is
I'm working on that.
So now that you're talking about your own thing, what is it jazz? Is it fusion? Is combos of all other stuff?
It's right now it's a couple of different things, because these days one of the other problems I find with the whole music industry is the labels. Like, okay, this is straight ahead jazz, this is fusion, this is contemporary, this is rock, this is pop, and it's kind of crazy sometimes.
I want you to fall into a box.
I understand that people want to have like labels for things to be able to identify.
Dude, my band, like, they have been labeled as like kind of like a rock, alternative rock back in the early 2000s and stuff like that. But now that the fans are a little bit older, the guys are a little bit older, they want to try to kind of float into the Americana genre a bit. Yeah. But the Americana scene and the people that kind of run that world, they want you to be Americana. Like, they don't want you to come from anywhere else. They want you to be this exact thing. If you are just a little bit outside and a little bit weird to them, they will not hire you for their festivals. They will not hire you for you have to be pinpoint in that thing, which I think is ridiculous.
What I'm trying to do is just to play safe on the labels. I like to call my stuff contemporary jazz, because the contemporary word allows you to bring elements from different styles and still keep it jazzy. Sometimes I like
contemporary is a nice sounding word. People like it.
Sometimes I like to hit hard. Sometimes I like to hit softer. Sometimes I like using completely like jazz kids, like on 12, 14, and 18. But sometimes I use most of the time is my 20-inch kick, 10 tom, and 16 floor tom, and 20 kind of medium low for fat sounds. I always keep changing stuff according to how I hear things, and hopefully my album finally will be released in January.
In January?
Next month. We're working hard, very hard, on have it together. And
who's in your band? Who's playing on it?
It's a different dudes
for each song
that went to school with me, and let me see. It's a lot of people, because. The album is based on 3 different sessions I did. So there was a session that I did for fun, and I wasn't planning to include that on the album, but then it made sense to put it. Then I did a second session, and then a third. And all the 3 sessions had different musicians. So you'll see them listed. But there's a couple of guys from Australia. There's a couple of guys from my country. There's a couple of American guys too. And I'm excited because I'm making this available. Pretty much, I think most of the songs almost all the songs will have play-alongs as well, so people can purchase and be able to play my music without the drums. That's
interesting. A drummer releasing an album without drums. Just for play-along.
Yeah, just for play-along.
That's cool.
But going back to that social media following, and I've been through that process, and I'm still on it, in a constant battle of trying to to stay consistent, but it's like looking at it as a game. Hey, it's a game. You know, if this video didn't do as well as you were expecting, cool. That doesn't say anything. And still, like, it's not. Numbers these days can be really altered. You know, you can buy followers or likes or views or do fake stuff. So it's really not.
I promoted a picture of mine the other day, and it's like it got an embarrassingly high amount of likes, which is just so not and it's because I think I pinpointed like someplace in Brazil or something, and then it just skyrocketed. Like I don't usually have that many. It's like maybe a couple hundred, but then it was like 2,000. I'm like, this looks so weird. You know, but I don't know. You can totally buy them,
and you know, it's in. You know, I got nothing wrong. Like, I don't think it's wrong to do paid promotions or anything like that. You know, anything you need to do to promote your brand. But I just try to, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like when I started playing, YouTube was not yet there. Like, I remember I posted my first YouTube video, I don't know, when it just came out, and it was like a pretty bad camera in my room, just playing to a set of old drums, and that wasn't a thing. And then, you know, all these, it's so oversaturated right now, and everybody wants to do the same thing. So I was like, okay, if everybody wants to do the same thing, how can I keep myself unique?
Do something different.
Okay, first thing, you are unique already because there's not two people like you. But I see and I approve and I applaud that most of musicians online, they follow certain guidelines or certain methods to become famous quickly.
Yeah.
Cool. But for example, and this is what I go, if I'm going to do a drum cover, let's say, or a drum lesson, or, you know, those things, I haven't done a lot of that. I'm trying to do a little more. But every time I sit to kind of analyze what I'm going to do, I try to research, because I don't want to do something just to please people.
Right.
If I don't like it. Like,
it has to be artistic and original for you.
I am not going to play, for example, let's say Ariana Grande is like an amazing singer. But let's say I'm not going to do a cover of a song of hers unless I like it. I don't care how many. I don't care. And I applaud, like I said, if you want to do it, that's cool. But most of the times when I want to do a cover or transcription that I don't do either, and I'm trying to do more of that too, two things have to be in place. I have to like it, first thing, and in the case of transcriptions or covers, it has to challenge me on something that I want to learn. And challenge doesn't mean something technically necessarily super difficult.
It just needs to be something that is hard for you. Yeah,
like for example, if you want to make a groove sound like really smooth and that song has it, and you kind of want to do it just to that I'll do.
Yeah,
but you know. And that's why probably I don't have more followers than what I have right now, because
but you do what you do well.
Exactly.
And the people that are around to listen to you, that's worth more than grabbing some fake number.
Well, and check this out. And I say this like really proudly, because I mean, it has taken me some time to also learn how to like believe in what I do and kind of own. That's the word, own what I do. But most of the comments I see, like positive comments on people, is like, man, your playing is so tasty. Your dynamics are on point. Like you flow, but how do I do that? You know, and then some of those comments, believe it or not, are good for me, not because I need them for for validation, but their perception actually makes me look into what I do and to analyze myself so I can then explain. For example, sometimes, oh man, I feel like you're doing this. Then I go and watch that video and I'm like, oh, maybe this could be a nice topic for a lesson.
Yeah.
And
it's like they're feeding you.
Yeah. So, this past couple of days I've been doing a list because I picked up again on my YouTube channel to try to post more often, do cooler stuff. And, I'm doing research on all the things I know, all the things I've studied, to teach and talk about them, and then doing research on YouTube, finding like, oh, is this already out there, or how can I do it differently? And at some point I was like really frustrated because I was like, man, why do I have to learn something to teach it? And then something came up to me. It's like, man, you don't need to do that. What you have to do is to learn how to break yourself down, like what you do.
Yeah.
Because what people usually is asking you is to explain what you do. They're not. So you don't have to go there and learn certain topic just to post a video. No.
Right.
And now I'm in the inner searching thing, trying to understand and analyze a little bit more. How can I articulate what I do for people that are not at that level?
Yeah, I mean, just like from what you do and watching a video, just knowing, just someone having like even a transcription of the rights and lefts and whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Is, I'm surprised. I do have anything that's like behind a paywall that some of these drummers do, like the 80/20 drummer and like whoever, where you can go on Patreon and get lessons. And
I still don't have a Patreon. I'm considering it too, but the thing is, and this is why I've been doing this kind of research. When you see all these things already happening, and everybody is in every platform doing the same thing,
right?
So, I'm trying to. Okay, first step, like everybody says, just do something. Don't stay 10 years thinking about it, and
because once you've done that, it's already passed by.
But then, like, how can I shape what I'm doing in a way that I find my own niche? You know what I mean? And people kind of engage with that, and they get what they get, and that's where I see the advantage of social media, building up a name for yourself. It's great.
Yeah,
you just have to keep yourself grounded and having your goals like really clear. And to me, honest, and this is just me, I don't want to be the rest of my life playing music, let's say, but just in a room.
Yeah,
not having contact with people. To me, that's important. And the way sometimes you might see that things, they come out naturally on those videos you see, because I like the studio work, like I said, and again, come back to the same thing I said at the beginning. I've been doing it like 20 years.
Yeah.
It's not, don't think that that's just gonna happen.
It doesn't just happen.
And not only 20 years, but it's like, how do you feed yourself?
But years of your dad showing you this amazing
music and listening to the music and going to concerts, playing. That plays a huge part. Like when someone asks me like, oh man, how do you develop your skills for soloing? And I'm like, well,
it's like, because I listen to Art Blakey.
Yeah, I used to listen to all those guys, and I still listen to them from the very beginning. And to me, taking a solo has been always natural.
Yeah,
it's just part of it.
That's just kind of a thing.
It's kind of what it is. And what I would always say to whoever's coming after me, younger or a fellow, whatever, is, just do it.
Yeah.
It takes time. Practice it. Sit down. Work it out. I don't want to leave without saying this. If you go sometimes on YouTube and watch videos of educators explaining stuff, go and learn. But at the same time, do your research, because I highly doubt that there is something out there that hasn't been done. Sometimes a guy can show you a group of 3 or a group of 5 and say like, man, check this sticking I have. And then I go, yeah, that's cool, but that came out a long time ago in Gary Chafee's books.
Yeah.
Like, do you know who Gary Chafee is, for example? Do you know who Alan Dawson is?
Yeah.
You know, all those early educators, Jim Chapin, Fred Gruber.
Those guys.
Spivak. You know, there's
none
all
of that is new.
out. None of it's new.
Yeah.
The thing is, and I again applaud the guys that take it today and explain it to the new generation. What I feel maybe is we need to bring up a little bit of the context. It's like, okay, you know, this thing I learned from here or there, or try to find where does it come from. That I believe gives a little bit more of strength to what you do when you can explain where does it come from originally, or at least, you know, where you learn it from, and then you can connect the dots. Like, I took a hit one time in a video. Like, it's I'm not sure if you've seen my videos with Mino. There are some videos out there.
They're the Mino promotional videos?
Yeah, the Mino promotional videos.
I think I might have seen one of the Foundry Reserve ones, or did you do one?
No.
I think you took a video of like when you got them or something.
If you go on YouTube on their channel, I went and produced like 5 videos with them a couple of years ago, and they did pretty fine. But there's this video. They had an idea of doing like a 1-minute quick lesson. And, you know, we're in the studio with all this pressure, and they tell me, like, do you have an idea, something you can teach us? Yeah, sure. So I explained something pretty quickly. I was a little nervous. It wasn't the best video, and I'm still proud of it. But a lot of people start shunning their guns at me because they said I didn't mention Steve Gadd when I did that. And, man, come on, quote Gadd. Come on, it's Gadd stuff.
It was like some paradiddle thing or something?
No, it was like a double stroke thing between the hi-hat and the snare. I know that,
like 50 ways.
I know that God does a lot of things like that, but here's the thing.
He didn't invent it.
My connection to God and God is a God on the drums.
Yeah, it's incredible.
My connection to God is Weckl and Vinny, because I used to listen a lot to these two.
Dave Weckl, Vinny Caluta.
And they come from God and other people.
Yeah.
But I did not learn this from God.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of and I do God stuff. Then I started researching and do more God stuff. But
well, it's people just projecting what they like and on you.
Yeah,
you know,
and you know, they but at the same time I learned a lesson with that. You know, now when I want to teach something, I try to find as much context as possible.
Yeah.
To avoid
you don't
those
leave
kind
anyone
of things.
out.
Yeah. You know, and I have to be completely honest. I didn't go like, let me learn this from God, then do it and take all the credit. I just said, hey, let me show you this thing and how you can do it.
Yeah.
That was it. I had a minute to say it, and I took a hit. But then, you know, Juan Carlito Mendoza, the guitar, the drum of Winner. We are like great friends, and when he saw all of these, he texted me. He was like, "Bro, chill out. Let them say whatever they want.
Haters gonna hate."
Yeah, and they're not seeing that you were giving them something for free to learn. Yeah. And they're complaining. So people,
but they're just it's the same people that aren't out there grinding and doing the work.
Exactly.
It's the ones that are sitting at home just like finding something to complain about and finding something to make them themselves feel important.
No, I learned something. I watch plenty of stuff online that I don't like. I don't say anything. If I don't like it, I don't say anything.
Yeah, I'm not a commenter.
I only comment if I have something constructive and positive to say.
Well, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Not at all.
No one is abiding by that.
And everybody feels like really entitled these days to just trash your work.
Yeah. And because they do it behind a computer. And they're never going to say anything to your face ever. Yeah. So and they'd be crazy too. Yeah. It's like because then you can spit off like however many drummers and solos and whatever. Yeah. But what do you think about, you know, you were just saying, just to kind of like, I guess wrap it up a little bit. What time have we got?
That would cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of new drummers that are not new drummers, but drummers that have their stuff together that are doing something new. Like I noticed in the last few years, like Mark Giuliana, he's been like, He's amazing. Amazing drummer. But so interesting to watch. He's like a scientist playing the drums. And I think it's really cool in his last album, Beat Music, that he like they're doing like the yellow jumpsuits, and I think cool. it adds like a cool like spice to it, something interesting.
How do you discover Mark?
How did I discover Mark?
Yeah.
So how did I discover
because
Mark?
I have something.
So
for
I
you,
was playing at Rockwood Music Hall in New York, and his band came up right after mine.
Beat Music.
So we swapped.
Wow.
And then I was taking my stuff off the kit, my cymbals and stuff, and he was putting his on, and I was helping him out and whatever. And I didn't really know who he was, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I go up and I'm like, oh, I'll check these guys out. They seem legit. And then I'm watching him, and I'm like, literally as close to you are to me now, and him playing drums. I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? And my brain nearly exploded.
Yeah,
it was so cool, man.
And that's the greatest thing about one of the greatest things about being here for me in this country. I was able to meet all these idols and watch them play. Before that, it was only videos and recordings back home. But it's interesting you mentioned Mark, because Mark did something to my head. So yeah, I'm back.
He does that to a lot of people.
I am back home. This is probably, it's gotta be 2011 or 12, something like that. I go to this jam session, and a friend of mine, piano player, his name is Holsen, and this other guy, drummer from my country, his name is Otoniel. They're great musicians. They said, like, man, have you checked this guy out? So they give me this Avishai Cohen album called Gently Disturbed. It's Avishai Cohen on bass, Shai Maestro on piano, and then Mark Julian on the drums. It's the first time I listened to this guy. So I listened to this album. It's kind of it's like contemporary jazz with classical mixed together with some odd time from the Middle East. And I went nuts. Listen, I had, my big kit in the studio, tear it all up down just to set up like Juliana and try to figure out what the heck.
Oh yeah, kick, snare, floor tom, like couple like cymbals.
You see like what he did with the Big Fair last year. Everybody with the big kits, and he's just with a kick, floor tom, and a crash.
Yeah, just crushing
it. That impacted me really quickly. And what I love about guys like Mark, guys like Nate Wood, guys like
Dave King,
Zach Dassinger, Dave King, and a couple more new guys, new guys on the scene, but they've been doing it for a long time. These guys, I like this expression, and that was Vinny that said this year earlier in NAMM show. He said, like, you gotta play like you don't give a fuck. So these guys, I love that. These guys play just like that, and I love that.
I love that.
So I will say I've seen Mark several times, but the craziest day for me was a double bill they had at the Sinclair. It was the Donnie McCaslin Quintet and Kneebody. So Nate Wood is playing drums with Kneebody. Mark Juliana is playing drums with Donnie McCaslin. But then Nate Wood is playing bass with Donnie McCaslin as well. Wow. Nate Wood is crazy. and they had a double drum thing in the show. And that's the first time I saw Nate Wood playing live. And these guys always, when I feel a little lost, these guys remind me why I do this. Like, their passion and their commitment to what they do.
It just shows you what's possible.
Yeah. Exactly, and they show you that exactly the possibilities are endless. But then, here's what really I admire more from all these current guys. If you see the internet and the new drummers and the Instagram and the YouTube and everybody is crushing it, 100,000 followers, blah, 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 blah. But then these guys that are doing the real deal out there, they still have the same heroes we all have.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, when it's like when Vinny walks in a room, everybody's, oh my God, It's so funny because there was a concert earlier this year or last year, I don't remember, and Herbie Hancock was playing, and Vinny was playing drums. And all these guys like Mark, Juliana, and several others were, Vinny, the goat, Vinny. So you see these guys, they go back again to the same guys, and then you go to Vinny, for example, and then he says Tony Williams, Billy Cobham,
Joe Jones,
Joe Jones, all these other guys, and that really tells you, like, there are still people who appreciate where the instrument came from, the pioneers, the innovators. They did their homework, and that I forgot to talk about that earlier, but that was actually one of the main things why I decided to really focus my studies at Berklee when I was like the performance studies, focused a lot on jazz, because I really wanted to learn the history of my instrument to give it a little bit more of relevance to what I play today. Yeah. Because one of the things I like about these improvisers of these days, they all have some kind of jazz foundation. Right. And with this, I'm not saying the jazz is superior than rock or than pop. I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about history. Because history gives context to what you do. Right. If you go and study, maybe you fall in love with that and then you do it. Maybe it's not my thing, but I understand it. Yeah. Then what I play.
But the jazz stuff, even on a physical, actual technical level, will get your coordination together.
Oh man!
Unlike any other of this stuff.
Because for me, I came up. I was attracted to the drums by fusion players at the beginning, like I said, Wackel, Vinny.
Did you ever listen to Lenny White a lot with Return to Forever? Because you said Chick Corea.
I listened to Lenny White later on here. Okay. Yeah, I learned about Lenny here. I learned a lot about other drummers here, and that's one of the greatest things, cool. To be able to share culture with these guys here.
It's like you moved to this new place. Here's all this new stuff.
And I was like, oh my God. That's awesome. So, I come from that fusion, late 80s, early 90s, Wackel, Vinny, like I said. And I started mimicking, trying to play what they play. And I found myself in a place where wow, this is cool, but I don't get it. Where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
See, I always, where does it come from? And I was really fortunate to meet a couple of guys down in my country. There's this drummer, his name, you have to check him out. I'll send it to you later. His name is Guy Frometa. He's from my country. He's probably, to me, is the top guy down there. Okay. And he's got his stuff together musically and playing. If you see him play, you will understand what I'm saying. But he got me hip to all this music. Before I came here, I'm like, man, I play jazz. And I show him Wackel and Vinny, and he's like, no, this is more like fusion stuff.
Check this out.
And then he pointed me to straight ahead jazz drummers. Check out Tony Williams, check out. And then with modern guys, check out Bill Stewart, check out Brian Blade. And, he's the guy.
Brian Blade, yeah.
Yeah, and you go to his apartment in the DR, and he's got this record collection that you can touch it and feel it. It's there. All the Miles Davis recordings. That's crazy. And
it's like when you walk into like Questlove's house and you see all this,
So he played, and he still, to this day, we chat every day. He's one of my biggest mentors in that way, because he always helped me to understand things. Because he studied here. He came to the States in the late 80s. And, he was like buddies with Giorgio Mayer, Dave DeSen. So they went to school together. So, he used to play for Lenny Stern, Mike Stern's wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's pretty well known. And then he went back to my country, and he's doing all the sessions, and he played with the big artists. And
do you ever see yourself going back and
not to leave, really? I want to do my career here and expand it, but I always like to go from time to time, do master classes, clinics, play. Do you ever some of my family?
Oh yeah, of course. Do you ever find with your visa, is it hard for you to go out and play here, or is that something you're supposed to do?
Well, no. Like right now, so what you do is, after you're done with school, they give you a practical training for a year, and then you apply for for the artist visa, and I'm in that process right now with
Gotcha.
the artist visa thing. Then when that is sorted out, there's no problem. And things are a little harder these days with the new administration,
the climate,
the climate and everything. But like it's just another
obstacle that you have to figure out.
For me, man, you just do it. Well, I'm sure you know about Antonio Sanchez, for example.
Of course, yeah.
He struggled crazy. He's and see where he is today.
Yeah.
And he's one of my biggest examples too, because he's a Latino, and then he comes here and struggles, and he's doing his thing, and he's an amazing drummer, and when you see somebody that can do like a score of a movie just with drums, and
it's unbelievable,
and like they invite you to play that score at theater, the drums, the script, and you. Isn't that crazy?
It's incredible.
So tell me, what is not possible?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes. Yeah. And like I said earlier, if I feel lost, I look at these guys.
Yeah.
And I go like, no, it's possible. Just keep doing. So that's what I look at. I aspire to be able to do my thing like these guys. I'm not trying to do their thing. I'm trying to do my thing at their level.
Yeah.
That's it,
Where can the people see you play? Other than on your Instagram or YouTube?
Well, sometimes I play
live in person.
Right now in town, most of the clubs are the Lily Pad, the Beehive, and sometimes I play around Berkeley. And you just have to, if you keep up with my socials, every time I will play and it's open to the public, I'll just post it there. I am trying to release, like I said, next month my album. So
I'm excited for that. I'm excited to hear that.
Keep it rolling, and I expect to do a lot of live performances once I have it out. And that's one of the things, having your album out open certain doors. You just don't go to people like, hey, so I'm a drummer and I have a band. You want to hire me? No. So here's my album.
Yeah, check it out.
Check it out if you like it. So I'm trying to make a lot of connections for that.
It's awesome. Well, Vlade,
thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad we made it happen.
Crazy conversation, huh?
Yeah, no, it's great. You got to say your full name because my stupid accent can't do it justice.
No problem. It's Vlade Guigni.
It's more of a B at the front.
Yeah.
Vlade.
Yeah, Vlade Guigni. Yes.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Next week, I'm going to have... that's a surprise. I'm going to keep it a surprise. So that's that. And hopefully I'll see you at the shows this weekend and at the last show, Carbon Leaf shows of the year next weekend. Please remember to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/afterthegig. If you have any questions or you have anything to say to me, email afterthegigpod@gmail.com. Again, it's afterthegigpod@gmail.com, and I like to get emails from you. So, and remember, Patreon people, send in your questions. If you have questions, probably going to be doing some podcasting these next couple of weekends. So if you have anything, you might want to send it along. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week. Rock on. Peace.